Hello, everyone. Juxtaposition here. It's coffee time with Juxtaposition. Do you get one of these handsome coffee mugs? Look for the link below. Coffee time with Juxtaposition. Need to send in some money, do-re me, to get one of these cups to my P.O. box. Anyway, wanted to talk to you today about a sobering topic, which I'm entitling um, Abdication, Adjudication, and Anarchy. Right. I've been struggling to come up with a good title for today's video. I could have called it From Order Will Come Chaos, or I could call it GGG versus AAA, right? GGG is Geneva Global Governance, and that's order. That's totalitarianism, fascism, one world order, we are one policy, one COVID for all, one climate action policy for all, one sheltering in place for all, one global pandemic for all. That's Geneva global governance. One money system for all, hyperledger system, cryptocurrency, central bank digital currency, one for all, one bank for all. That's Geneva global governance, which, of course, I find repugnant and I reject it. And my channel is based on the rejection of Geneva global governance, Swiss bank authority, right? I'm opposed to Swiss eugenics programs and Swiss maritime law and Swiss radiation poisoning programs, such as promulgated by CERN and International Telecommunications Union and the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Juxtaposition is on the record for being opposed, and I find that to be um, a perversion of humanity. All right, and it's anti-human. It's a post-human agenda. And I am for AAA, AAA. I am for abdication, which is a form of mutiny. In other words, we all have a civic duty to disobey unethical, illegal, felonious orders. You are not morally responsible to be following illegal commands, directives, which is what the United Nations has become, along with its evil twin, the World Economic Forum, the propaganda division, a publicity company for United Nations, which is neither united nor is it embodied by any nations. Since there are no peoples and there are no religions and there are no nations, there are only strategic hamlets and Hunger Games and districts with governors within the superstructure of Geneva Global Governance. It's run through a program called Strategic Hamlet Program, SHP. If any of this is new to you, become a paid member and go back in my library of over 1,700 videos. I've covered Strategic Hamlet Program, Agroville, Search and Destroy, the Chords program, and Operation Phoenix program in Vietnam, which are all military programs promulgated by NATO that take us from overt, in the case of Search and Destroy, where people come into the town without a search warrant, without any adjudication, and simply ransack homes looking for armaments, weapons, munitions, depot storage, and may make arrests, again, with no authority to do so, under martial law, which is military maritime law. That's called search and destroy. That's very overt, in your face. It can be day or night. And the program over 20, 30 cycles from in your face in overt ways to underhanded espionage and spying ways to where it became Operation Phoenix, which is kidnapping, interrogation, torture, enhanced interrogation, and murder, murder, mass murder, and individual murders, throwing people out of helicopters, torturing them to death without a biscuit team, medical doctor present, and burying them in a ditch, bulldozing over some loose dirt, and no gravestones. It's Operation Phoenix. William Colby was a participant in all of these programs. He knows about search and destroy. He knows about Agroville. He knew about Strategic Hamlet Program. He knew about CORDS, which has to do with the infiltration of your city council and your board of supervisors for education and utility matters having to do with farming, water, allocations. CORDS program, civil operations, revolutionary development support. And then finally, Phoenix, which is Black Ops, which is 100% covert. Everybody denies that Phoenix even existed. When Daniel Ellsberg photocopied the Pentagon Papers at the Rand Corporation offices in Santa Monica, he made damn sure that the Operation Phoenix dossiers and files were excluded from the Pentagon Papers. And quite frankly, everything that was in the Pentagon Papers was already in the public domain, and you don't need to photocopy it. Everybody knows about Search and Destroy and CORDS program. But nobody knew about Operation Phoenix because you see, they hadn't figured out that the Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger, Lena LaBianca murders were actually a carbon copy of what is Phoenix program, aka a gladio kill by the sword. That's what gladio means in Italy, means by the sword. I would think they know that at the Vatican, don't you? JP1, John Paul the First, he was handed a cup of cyanide laced tea, and that was the end of 33 days of papacy for Pope John Paul the First. While Paul Marcinkus, the president of the Bank of Vatican, a Swiss branch bank, looked on with his cousin Vinny there. Cousin Vinny cousin is from the New York Colombo crime family visiting the Vatican City State the weekend that JP1 was poisoned to death. Then they, of course, embalmed his corpse, threw all his organs into a cremation oven, and then we debated whether or not we should have an autopsy after the embalming. All right. So I could have called this program a lot of different names. One of the slogans that I picked up from a West Point officer who, a graduate of West Point who served in Vietnam and worked with people who would have been part of Operation Phoenix and certainly CORDS program out of Saigon and in Da Nang, which is a resupply port facility on the Gulf of Tonkin. Da Nang. But my friend spent most of his time working out of the embassy in Saigon. And he said these words that have stuck with me. What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear you. What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear you. And when you have a authority system, which we have, or a Captain Bligh or a Captain Quigg who's lost their minds and is acting irrationally, like we have in Geneva, Switzerland, we have irrational people running the United Nations and Supreme NATO Command of all forces on Earth. There's no American Army, there's no American Air Force, there's no American space program. There's only Geneva, Switzerland, utilizing its colonial districts and conscripting or recruiting soldiers and air people from the different Hunger Games. When you have a situation where the leaders or the officers and all of the upper management people are acting irrationally in groupthink mode, and they all are bought into false narratives, mantras such as climate change, climate action, and global pandemics, and global digital ID, and real ID verification, tagging all humans like farm animals, that this has now become a religious belief system, that we have one world order, we are one. That's Pope Leo's slogan. Pope Leo. Pope Leo, the dope of a pope of the Catholic Church. Pope Leo, he believes in we are one. He believes in Geneva global governance. He believes that we should disable the AI, but he doesn't say a damn thing about the system on which AI is dependent, which is the architecture, the framework, the railroad tracks. If you're opposed to the locomotive, you should first consider disassembling the railroad tracks that it runs on. Because there can be no artificial intelligence whatsoever without molecular communication, molecular engineering, CRISPR therapeutics, CRISPR, the art of Frankenstein monster cellular modification of human DNA, aka gene splicing. There cannot be an AI without hyperledger systems, which is keeping dossiers and systems within systems of radiation poisoning, which will involve photonics, ultrasonics, and magnetic resonance. And Pope of a dope, Leo, doesn't know what photonics is. He doesn't know what eugenics is. He doesn't seem to understand the use of ultrasonics and eugenics as a companion set. He doesn't get it. He doesn't know what cryptocurrency is. He doesn't know what programmable money is. Programmable money is a way to herd the sheep, as is the COVID vaccination. And it was the dope of a Pope Leo who supported the policies of the WHO, World Health Organization, as all religions did. LDS, the synagogue in Los Angeles did. New Age Kabbalah supported masking and the COVID vaccination. And so did the Hare Krishnas, and so would have Jim Jones and People's Temple had they not been disabled after the Guyana situation there on Union Carbide property in British Guiana, with MI6 looking on and supervising, MI6 being international NATO intelligence forces for Britain. All right. So our lunatic captain on the high seas, our Captain Quig, our Captain Bligh, is expressed in the United Nations. It's best expressed by looking at Swiss Bank Authority. And they have secret meetings constantly in a non-democratic, non-noticing, non-disclosure, guarded secrets, very creepy, very few, if any, women involved. We have P2, Propaganda Due, and we have P26, and we have the Knights Templar, all headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, and we have these Masonic lodges and obelisks in all banking facility district offices throughout the world, throughout the whole world. That means in Hanoi, Vietnam, we have an obelisk and we have a central bank authority. And in Saigon, we have obelisks, but no central bank. That was located, the central bank authority was in Bangkok, Thailand, where there is a central bank for Switzerland and also obelisks in Bangkok, Thailand. And that would be true, of course, in the Holy Vatican City, where in the center of St. Peter's Square, we have an 83-foot tall obelisk, which governs and rules over a chain of command over the Pope, the dope of a Pope, and all the cardinals. And then there are 13 obelisks throughout the city of Rome, outside the walls of the Vatican City. There are 13, unity amongst Masons, 13 obelisks. And you'll find the Eiffel Tower in Paris is in the shape of an obelisk, and you'll find where Marie Antoinette and her husband Louis XVI were beheaded stands an obelisk. Place de Concorde, right? There's an obelisk there. And there are other obelisks in the City of Lights, Paris. You should know that the Tour de France will be beginning on the 4th of July this year. 4th of July 2026 in Barcelona. We are going to have the start of the Grand Tour, Tour de France in Barcelona. It's the 113th edition of the tour. It will run from July 4th through July 26th. The grand depart, the grand start begins in the center of Barcelona. This will be the third time the race has ever begun in the Hunger District of Spain, Spaniard nation. Um, the stage one is going to be a team time trial. That's a race against the clock using your whole team. I don't know how, I think 4 or 5 of your team members need to stay together to finish. They take the time of the fourth or fifth person across the finishing line. That's where the clock is stopped. The fourth person across the line. I believe it's the fourth person. Anyway, wanted you to know that the Tour de France is beginning on July 4th, which is America's birthday. And of course, America doesn't exist, right? Harvard University existed from 1600, which is an indoctrination center for clergy and civic leaders, civic pseudo leaders of the Hunger Games. So you should know that. So, as we get close to the Tour de France, we're getting closer to the 4th of July, which is America's tradition of alcohol, parades, barbecues, and then when the sun sets, blow up explosive devices known as fireworks. None of that has anything to do with living in a civilized world, right? You want to blow up bombs and have barbecue and drink beer. Signs and symbols rule our world, and Americans are totally controlled by signs and symbols. You have obelisks all around you. In Washington, D.C., you have the Washington Monument, do you not? In San Francisco, we have the Transamerica Pyramid, and we have the Nike statue in Union Square in front of the St. Francis Hotel in what at one time was the premier shopping district of San Francisco. It's mostly boarded up now. So Union Square is a disgrace. It's a charade. It's a joke, just like Fisherman's Wharf is. Just like in Seattle, Pike's Market is now boarded up. Even the Starbucks is closed at Pike's Market, which has the Seattle um, Space Needle, which is an obelisk, right? Wherever there's an obelisk in our big cities now is boarded up because they're resetting. We went from a horizontal integration of power from Geneva using mostly horizontal, and we're moving it back to vertical integration where it's more hierarchical, more obvious, pyramidal, obelisk style chain of command. But our world has always operated on a horizontal and vertical military uh, chain of command. And it's just that it's like an amoeba. It reshapes as the situation changes. And today we're going to a very steep pyramidal shape, steeper than the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas, which, by the way, that's pretty much of a dive, of a dump, tear down hotel. They'll probably won't be here forever. That pyramid may get replaced by the Globe, right? The big Globe over at the Venetian Hotel, which is a neuromodulation center. So we have these perverts in Geneva, and through their minions and private bankers throughout the world, like Sand Hill Road, like Park Avenue in New York at Blackstone, or Hudson Yards, BlackRock, Blackstone, Larry Rat Fink, Stephen Schwartz Mann, Joe LeCobe, Dean Jacobson, um, Jim Breyer, Capital, moved out to Austin, Texas. Um, Using Guglielmi at Sequoia Capital uh, and people like that, they are deploying, the molecular engineering 7G technology, which uses 6G terahertz submillimeter waves to radiate people using the Havana Syndrome latest edition, PAVE-PAWS, phased array vector evaluation, phased array weapon system, DEW, DEWS, right? And they can do weather modification. They can make forest fires happen, burn hotter, longer, harder to put out. They can change your temperature, make it cold, make it hot. because there's no such thing as climate change. And by the way, there's no such thing as fossil fuels either. That's another lie that Geneva has promoted, the idea of fossil fuels and the idea that there's too many cows and chickens and lambs, so we need to stop traveling and have gasoline prices at $200 a gallon and drive electric cars, driverlessly, remotely, right? Well, those are the prison techniques. If you ran the county jail or you ran a penitentiary or you ran Fort Leavenworth, for example, you would be deploying the exact techniques of Geneva Global Governance. You'd have a military martial law kangaroo court system where you can foist whatever punishments onto people. There's no due process. You get rid of due process, you get rid of human rights, you get rid of constitutional rights, you get rid of the Constitution, except to use it as a prop. You have a world court, you have one world order, and then you can have global pandemics, which could never happen in real life, but can happen if you promulgate it in a conference room, which is what COVID was, a complete hoax, as is monkeypox, as is the bird flu, as is mad cow disease. When your mad cows go crazy in China and Iran and Iraq and Dubai and Paris and the countryside of Paris and States, right? It's a hoax. Like the moon landing, right? The moon landing was a hoax. You know that, right? All right. So anyway, we have a situation here. We have military control, and the generals running the show in Geneva have lost their minds. So the right thing to do, of course, is to disengage. You must disengage from them, which is a form of a mutiny, right? It's the refusal to obey orders of a person in authority when they've lost their minds. And clearly, GGG has lost their minds. And we need to pivot to AAA. And I don't mean Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean abdication, adjudication, and anarchy. That's the solution to techno enslavement. That's the solution to centralized authority of Switzerland, Geneva Global Governance. It's insane. And they lie repeatedly. They're pathological liars. There's no such thing as climate change. There's no such thing as a global pandemic. That's impossible from a scientific point of view. There is no civilized world that operates on one world order, we are one, right? There is no such rational thing as one world court or a Geneva Convention that applies universally to everyone. This is insane. It's hypocritical. There's no such thing as AI. There's no such thing as artificial intelligence. You do know that algorithms of computers are not highly intelligent at all. They're very, very, very primitive and stupid, like an IQ of 10, IQ of 11. It's below retardation. No tenets of thinking, no cognition, only just following yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, then do this. It's pre-programming. It's time to have an open rebellion against the authorities when the authority has become disabled. They're insane. This is especially true by the soldiers and the sailors against their officers. And this is best expressed against your police department, your sheriff's department, county board of supervisors in your strategic Hamlet game. Because I've told you we went from search and destroy to Agroville to position people near water and farm sources to easier to control and feed them, and then move it to strategic hamlets with electronic corridors. Then we had courts where we infiltrated the tribal city councils and board of supervisors of each hamlet. We mapped everything. We had centralized banking authority. And then we had the Phoenix terrorism program when things were worrisome. And so you kidnap the dissenters, those that do not obey their command. And you do know this whole idea of obedience and code of omerta and oath of poverty, which is what Geneva is promoting, is that by 2030 you will own nothing and be happy. Well, that's an oath of poverty. They're turning you into a Catholic priest or a Catholic nun. They take an oath of obedience, an oath of poverty, an oath of chastity, and an oath of world order if they're a Jesuit, world mission. But your typical parish priest has an oath of chastity, poverty, and obedience. You can throw the emerita code in there because you know the Catholic Church and all the parishes have many little secrets, don't they? We have child abuse problems. And this is also very true at the LDS Mormons. They have many, many felony child abuse cases involving bishops and stakeholders, as well as lower level people in the chain of command of the Mormon Church, which is started by two philanderers, Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, who I've lost track of. It's over 100 wives, right? 100 wives, including women who are already married to other people. So it's clearly a philandering on steroids over there at the Mormon Church. Anyway, that's what the foundation of the Mormon Church was built upon, philandering. Also telling lies and stories about treasure hunting and then ripping people off, getting money to go treasure hunting, then fleeing the town and going to the next town. So, in other words, grand larceny. The Mormon Church was founded on grand larceny, fraud, embezzlement, and philandering. What a wonderful several pillars of faith over there at the LDS Nut House. It makes LDS makes Jim Jones and the People's Temple look like Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts. Cub Scouts. I would say Cub Scouts. All right. So what else can I tell you? Um, the Tour de France is beginning on the day that America celebrates its birthday. America is a Hunger Game colony of Switzerland. And by the way, so too is Barcelona, Spain. And so too is Paris, France, who Marie Antoinette and King Louis XVI were guarded by over 1,500 Swiss gendarme guards, in the way that Pope Leo is guarded by 113 um, Swiss papal guards at the Vatican. All right. And in Geneva, they're rolling out the recommended practices for nanoscale and molecular communication frameworks. It's expressed in the IEEE P 1906.1. This is known as the Institute of Electronics and Electrical Engineering, which has offices in New Jersey and New York City. And because this is an emergent technology, let me straighten you out on that. It's fully deployed now. It's not emerging, it's here. If you have LED street lights in your neighborhood, if you have smart meters, if you have ring cameras, neighbors that have ring cameras, then you are part of IEEE P 1906.1, the practice for nanoscale molecular communication framework. It means that Jennifer Doudna's CRISPR Therapeutics Cas9 technology is presently microwaving your brain, only using sub-millimeter microwaves, very tiny interspaced repeated waves, sub-millimeter waves. And this standard is designed to encourage innovation and research amongst all the corporate weapons makers so that they can get a piece of the pie. That's really what the AI is, which Pope Leo doesn't understand. The AI is not about the algorithm, it's about building the network systems into antennas, making humans nodes on the network, making them transponders to send and receive. Pope Leo completely is clueless when it comes to human augmentation. And he's going to have a church of zombie robots. Because if global governance has their way in Geneva, then there'll be no Catholic Church. It'll just be a group of zombie robots, cyborgs, to be manipulated how the Satan worshipers, the satanic worshipers, the wicked people of Geneva want to practice eugenics upon the earth. All right. So again, this whole business of the meaning of anarchy typically had to do with being lawless. But if the laws are immoral, and more importantly, our judicial system is immoral, I want to emphasize judicial misconduct, which typically refers to unethical behavior and inappropriate behavior by judges. Like Kevin Mullins in Letcher County, Kentucky. He was the only Superior Court judge in Letcher County, and he was running a bordello out of the jail and the probation department, using women on anklets to have prostitution activities with his friends, his visiting friends from other counties, snorting cocaine off of his desk in the judge's chamber, retiring to the cottage behind the courthouse in Letcher County where they have orgies. Okay, so that's an example of a judge that went off the reservation. Now, of course, they're going to blame the sheriff for executing him, shooting him 9 times with a 9mm pistol in his judge's chambers office. But, looks like Mickey Stein did the right thing to get rid of that judge, right? Except Mickey was involved in it too. He's partners with the judge. And of course, they don't want to tell you the truth. The truth is the judge are. That's why the whole idea of judicial misconduct cannot be pinned to judges. Totally corrupt, for sure, and they're totally compromised. But that includes the sheriff's department, your local police, that includes your district attorney, your state attorney general, AG, the Trump administration, the attorney general's office for Bill Clinton, the attorney general's office for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. She was district attorney of San Francisco County. She's corrupt. The babbling cacophony of chaos, Kamala Harris, the yellow school bug, Masonic Kamala Harris, born in Oakland. I'm sorry to say, just like I was, just like Earl Warren was. Earl Warren, Supreme Court Justice, whose name is attached to a fraudulent document known as the Warren Commission or the Warren Report, which named Lee Harvey Oswald as the sole killer of John Kennedy. It's a complete mendacity. Well, that idiot was born in Oakland, like I was, like Juxtaposition was. But I'm happy to report that Ronald Rettenhauer was born in Oakland also, and he brought us the My Lai massacre by writing 33 letters to Richard Nixon, the cabinet, and the Congress of the United States. 33 letters. And it was through those letters that we were then introduced to Seymour Hersh, who knows nothing about the My Lai massacre, but got a Pulitzer Prize because that's how they roll. That's how our system works. Our media, our publishing is totally corrupt. Publishing, that means people who are allowed to have books in print, magazines, newspapers, publishing, and songs that are published with Warner Brothers and RCA Victor, or Capitol Records, EMI, Universal Music Group. Um, those are the main producers of popular music, and they're totally controlled. Hollywood is a military operation. Newspapers, radio, television, military operation. It's the distribution system for the content created by the Tavistock Institute of London and the Frankfurt School in Germany and Hollywood and Culver City and San Fernando Valley and all the think tanks, Hoover Institute, Eason Institute, Claremont Institute, Aspen Institute, right? The Brain Institute, all the institutes. All those people need to be rounded up, along with all the university chancellors, all the pseudo governors, all the pseudo mayors, all the pseudo Congress people. That includes Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders and Ron Paul, round him up too, even though he's quasi retired. RFKJ, round him up. Round up his wife, Cheryl Hines. She needs to be rounded up. She's Hollywood military. And round them all up, I say. Round up Neil Young. Round up Dick Van Dyke. Round them all up and put them into a FEMA detention center where they can be slowly but surely interrogated, like Guantanamo Bay or Fallujah. And we can put Ron DeSantis in there since he's an expert on enhanced interrogation methods. Ron DeSantis, the fake governor of Florida, of Yale University and Harvard Law, and Judge Advocacy, Maritime Law to Geneva, Switzerland. That's that Ron DeSantis. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So Geneva Global Governments has gone off the rails, and climate action is a fraud. Global pandemics are a fraud. One world order is a fraud. That is undemocratic. That someone in Geneva knows what's best for your village and hamlet. That the deployment of AI is a crime. It's a felony crime, and dumping chemtrails from the sky on a daily basis and scintillating that area for weather warfare and to human augment all of the people who go out and about during the day. That is grounds for a mutiny, a lawful anarchy. That's what a mutiny is. It's the people deciding. We, the people, will disobey orders from a corrupt individual asserting authority over others. That is a lawful action. It's not unlawful. When you have a state of disorder, which we have with Geneva, you must count with doing it's called doing the right thing. All right. We have an absence of government authority now. So you see, when you have order, law and order, which is corrupt, the solution to that is to disengage from it, ignore it, do not obey corrupt people, do not take corrupt laws as being gospel, and go to tribalism, which is local governments within your hamlet, and then you'll know what to do. You'll know what to do. You need water, you need food, you need relationships with farmers, and you need to get away from these monolithic corporations, which are infiltrated through corporate law firms and all the judges who preside over maritime law courts to follow Geneva Global Governance Eugenics programs. That's my point today with my video, is that public anarchy is the lawful and logical countermeasure to immoral totalitarian fascist rule of Swiss bank authority, Geneva Global Governance. That GGG must be replaced by AAA, Abdication, Adjudication, and Anarchy is the countermeasure to one world order, we are one Pope Leo, Geneva Global Governance. Thanks for listening. Do like and share my videos because I am heavily shadow banned. And do get your hands on one of these juxtaposition mugs, which look quite handsome in your cupboard. Take care now. Bye-bye.